And get this. So this is from World Socialist website. And I want you to understand how many people are actually protesting. 50,000 people, over 50,000 people in Sri Lanka striking and protesting. Let's get into it. By the way, you should definitely follow World Socialist website because they're awesome. Why else? Okay. Over 50,000 Sri Lankan workers strike and protest against, let me get this right, because I looked up this guy's name, against Wickremesinghe. Yes, against Ranil Wickremesinghe. Sorry, guys, I had to look up with that one. Government's austerity measures. Let's go on. Over 50,000 workers joined strikes and demonstrations across the island yesterday to fight for the largest round of International Monetary Fund, IMF, dictated social attacks being enacted by the Wickremesinghe government. While the action mainly centered on the new taxes on wages, protesters also denounced unbearable increases to the cost of living. Don't we have these same issues here in the United States, right? Taxes on wages, unbearable increase to the cost of living. Look at the pictures, guys. Look. Could you imagine what kind of change could come about in the United States if we could get 50,000 people in the street protesting over the inflation, the prices, just that alone? We don't even have to add all these other things. There's many things that we can add, but just on the inflation, 50,000 people. Betsy says, I can't wait to have a general strike here. This is what I'm talking about. Like, guys, this is nothing to them. This is nothing to people in Sri Lanka to get this many people out in the street. Denmark was the same way. I talked about this over an hour ago. Denmark also had over 50,000 people in the street. This is a no-brainer to them. When they feel like their pockets have been hit, when they feel like they're being overexploited, when they feel like the cost of living is too high, this is nothing to them. It's a no-brainer. You get out in the street. You don't see them sitting around saying, oh, let's see who we can elect and put into this position to make some changes that'll happen next year or the year after. No, they hit the street. This is what we have to do. Let's go on. Thousands of workers from the government-owned petroleum corporation held a half-day strike, as did about 30,000 employees from public and private sector banks. Around 5,000 government university teachers and 20,000 doctors from public sector hospitals walked out in a one-day strike. Cancer treatment, maternity wards, emergency services, and children wards were exempted from the doctor's strike. Do you see how they connected people across industries to do this strike? They have the doctors. They have the employees from the public and the private banks. This is what we need to happen here, guys. This is exactly what we need to happen here. Desert Manta said Americans are accustomed to accepting it because of societal brainwashing. I think that's a big part of it. I think people here are just heavily propagandized. And over again, I keep hearing about what we can't do. But I want to hear people talk about what we can do. I want to hear people say, yes, we can get this many people out in the streets. Here's the plan. Here's the strategy. And here's how we're going to do it. I don't want to hear anymore. We can't do it. Everybody else is doing this. But us. Let's go on. Around 6,000 workers from the ports observe a half-day work to rule, and thousands of Sealand Electricity Board, CEB, workers, apart from those attending to breakdowns, participated in a sick leave campaign. In Colombo, thousands of port workers and water supply and drainage board employees joined a lunch hour demonstration outside the Fort Railway Station in protest against rising inflation. Again, protesting against the inflation. They demanded that the government withdraw its income tax increases. This was followed by a 1-hour demonstration organized by several Silent Petroleum Corporation trade unions, and around 4,000 CEB employees demonstrated outside the CEB headquarters. Later that afternoon, approximately 4,000 doctors, university teachers, engineers, and other professionals protested in Colombo's Hyde Park. And here's a picture here. You know, they did very well, right? You know, they did very well when they were able to get the doctors to join them and the engineers. It goes on to say, indicating its preparedness to unleash state violence against the working class. The Wickremesinghe government deployed hundreds of police personnel, including riot cops equipped with water cannon trucks near protest sites in Colombo. So for people, you know, oftentimes people tell me, well, in these other countries, Sabrina, they don't have the police state. Looks like they brought in the police state here. Riot cops, police personnel, it said they deployed hundreds of them. But that didn't stop the people from protesting. The government also dispatched the military to the fort area, but it kept some distance away. Yesterday's strikes and protests are the largest stage in a growing movement of workers that began late last year against President Ranil and his government. That was the one I covered last year, the first one. In early December, Sri Lanka telecom, insurance, and bank employees protested in Colombo against privatization and other austerity attacks. On January 9th, thousands of public sector health workers held a one-day strike demanding wage increases and opposing austerity measures. In mid-January, tens of thousands petroleum corporation workers, bank employees, as well as doctors and engineers held a week of protests. This was followed on January 25th by protests by 5,000 port workers against the government's new pay-as-you-earn tax, which deducts between 6 and 36% from monthly salaries, starting at about 100,000 rupees. Now, they're getting thousands of people to come together to rise up against the elite, to rise up against these increases that are happening to them. I want to see us do that here. Thousands of people. And they do it so quickly. They do it so quickly. Like, they don't need a year to prepare. They don't need months to prepare. They just do it because to them, it's a no-brainer. If they feel as though they are being treated badly or poorly by their government, if they feel like their benefits are being stripped away from them, boom, light bulb just clicks on and they just go and do it. They don't sit here and argue and say, oh, is this person on the left? Is this person on the right? They don't sit there and argue and say, oh, I wonder who the speaker is. I don't want to go because I don't like the speaker. We have so many distractions here in this country. People are distracted by Netflix. People are distracted by the Kardashians. People are distracted by podcasters who may be speaking at an event. They're distracted by all those things. And because they feed into the distraction, guess what happens? The event suffers because people choose not to pretend because of all these distractions that were thrown their way. And that means that the people who are doing those things, that means that you are helping them accomplish their goal. And I say this because You guys know the Rage Against the War Machine rally is February 19th. I told you guys I'll be covering that event. And of course, there's been attacks about the event. I've been in organizing spaces long enough to know it's just a given now. I've seen it happen. It doesn't matter who the speaker is. I've seen this multiple times where people will come in and you can have every speaker that checks off every box that people think, and somebody will still attack the event. I've been through it multiple times. So what I'm trying to explain to you is the reason why these other countries can get thousands of people out in the street like this, like that quickly, is because they are not paying attention to the distractions. And two, for them, it is a no-brainer. That's important. Brother Daniel said, I'm protesting here locally in solidarity. Right on, Brother Daniel. That's what I'm saying, man. We have got to find a way to make those kind of things happen here. And also, another thing I want to mention, I can guarantee you these protesters are not spending most of their time online. These protesters are not spending most of their time arguing with people on Twitter or arguing with people on Facebook. They're organizing with people face to face in real time. That's what you need to do. And I do want to mention this piece here. While workers have powerfully shown their willingness to take action against the government's social attacks, the trade unions have kept workers separated and restricted the protests to the income tax, hoping to prevent a nationwide industrial and political struggle. They know what is coming. They know what's coming. Ali says the global South has traditionally been able to unite the people around economic issues and not social issues. That's 100% true. Pasta talked about that when him and Fee came on last time. That's the big difference between them and the United States. Again, but to them, again, this is a no-brainer. No-brainer. And then one other piece that I do want to mention here. So the police did come and try to disrupt. When the police arrived at Fort Station in an attempt to disrupt the demonstration, they were denounced by angry protesters. One worker shouted, "If you attack us with water cannons, we will stop the work at the ports." You see this? We will stop the work. Because they realize without their labor, the country doesn't have anything. They realize that they have that power through their labor. If you attack, we will see what happens next. Concerned that they provoke an immediate industrial backlash, the police did not proceed. I'm going to put the link to this article in the chat if you guys want to continue to read it. But shout out to the people in Sri Lanka because they are not playing around. They are not playing around. So you got to give them their flowers and give